Hello, PRP Com 1 classmates. Today we are down to the last two sessions. Actually, I think this is the one of the last ones because it's already we've discussed already last week writing for academic purposes, and you've written your research articles. This time we're moving on to communication for work purposes. So our focus for this session or for this chapter will be discussing the guidelines in creating effective communication materials, explain procedures for communicating in the workplace, and to prepare communication materials related to your field of specialization. Remember that all of you are engaged in business and communication. Tourism is a business that needs communication. Broadcasting is a business that is in the business of communication. So all of you are technically on the same boat. This is about communicating, bringing forward your business, and being confident about doing it. But before you become confident in doing it, dapat alam natin, we already know or we have an idea how are we supposed to become effective writers or effective presenters for what we are writing. So what we have in here is workplace communication. More less than some of you for some of you less than 4 years from now, some of you might get jobs already, or some of you will be working. Some of you are actually even working right now, which is a good thing as long as you are not sacrificing your academics, of course. So when you are here and you are here because you want to get a job in the future. Some of you might be abroad. Some of you might be working in other places that are not near your home. You are taga-Baba, you are TG Babe, but you are working in Baguio or Manila. You are from Baguio, but you will go to Manila or to other places. All of those ones, what's common about it is before you will be hired, you need to have a good presentation about who you are as a person, personally and professionally, your skills, your personality, etc. So, I hope that you've gone over the module. I do not trust that you did, but I'm going to go over those key terms one by one. And just to remind you, you have to read this because of your final exams as well. So, the importance of effective workplace communication are discussed here. Number one, creates job satisfaction. So, when uh, there's a very good workplace communication, many people are happier. The employees are happy, they are able to work more, they're able to work better, productivity rises, and we're able to achieve more. So there's a good job satisfaction. People will not leave because they are having fun or they enjoy the kind of freedom that they have in your company. The second one is lesser conflicts. Of course, pag napag-uusapan or if we are able to talk about the things that are bothering us or things that we think are affecting our work, then we will have lesser conflicts because we're able to resolve through open and clear communication and mutual discussions. Okay. So, of course, another tip also, because you are first year students, you're freshmen, when you enter the professional world, no need for gossips. So if you have an issue or if there is something that you want to tell someone, you have to tell the person first, or it depends on the situation. There's a proper way to do everything. And I think your teachers in your major subjects are teaching you to do that. There are times when you need to go to your superior or talk directly to your friend or to your workmate, etc. It also increases productivity because effective communication means you're able to tell the employees, or you're able to tell each other what are your objectives, what are your goals. So when you will tell the person this is what we need to do, and they do it, then that increases productivity, right? Formation of relationships, of course, communication is the key to a very good relationship. Your employees or your administrators, between you and your management, if you are the employee, if there's a genuine communication, there's also a genuine feeling of care. Para kang inaalagaan pag kinakausap ka, or there is a free flowing communication. You feel your worth. You know that you are worthy, or you know that you are a member of the family, or that you are a member of the group. Of course, proper utilization of resources. So there are times, of course, when there are things that don't go our way. So our organizations can face problems, crises, and conflicts due to miscommunication. There are staff members who fight verbally and physically even. And there are times when we cannot control other people's feelings towards us. And when this happens, it creates drama and it creates delays in our daily work. Nadadamay ang ibang tao. So, sayang ang oras. Instead of us working, kumikita, or being productive, we are bothered, or we are going over these issues which will, at the end of the day, affect our productivity. So when you are not being productive because you are fighting or because you have conflicts, always remember you are affecting the way your company is working, and that's not a good thing. Okay? So each of us belongs to several different organizations. So of course, some of you might be working in, there are different areas where you will work in. I am in the academe, for example. I am in the academe, and I'm also sometimes a consultant. So I work with some companies. I work as a communications consultant and as a translator, or as an editorial consultant. For example, I help electric companies come up with proper ways on how to communicate effectively their strategies, or their notions to the people that they serve. And when you do this, it must be very simple. Yun ang trabaho ko. I simplify things that are very technical. That's why I usually work with engineers, science majors, etc. I'm one of the work that I do is to translate, or to make the science jargons more people friendly and more understandable. Yun yung point niya. Okay? So, being communicatively competent in the workplace involves understanding how the context of the organization influences communication process and the nature also of communication. So, of course, there is some organizations where there are protocols for how you're going to communicate. You should do that. SOP po ang tawag doon, or standard operating procedure. So, if for example, there is a ticket online that you have to use for you to give your ideas, then you have to use that. Hindi yung dediretso ka sa office ng boss mo para mag-complain, meron pa palang ibang dadaanan. Or for example, here in the academe, as a teacher, if there's a conflict that I want to report, or that I want to share to the to I need help with, I will not go directly to the vice president or to the president. So there are still channels. I have to go to the dean first, or I need to go to the HR department. You should also know the process. Kaya nga, as students even, for example, um, meron kang na-miss na quiz, and then your teacher is not accepting it. So you want the teacher to you're having a hard time explaining that to the teacher. So the best way that you can do is, talk to the teacher again, and if the teacher will still say no, that's when you go to the dean, right? That's the proper thing to do. And right now, during the pandemic, medyo nagkakagulo. That's why the communication process is being disrupted. What happens? Students are going directly to the vice president for academic affairs and complaining there. So what happens is, na instead na si vice president nag-work siya sa mga importanteng bagay, like she is working on things that will benefit more people and that will benefit the greater part of the university, nag-email, meron tuloy siyang ilang minutes na nasasayang kasi ini-email niya yung dean, or binabalik rin naman niya yung letter ng estudyante sa dean or sa teacher na, example, "Oh, Sir Ivan, may estudyante ka na nagko-complain, di mo daw ina-accept yung papel nila, or hindi ka daw nagtuturo," and then she's going to send it to me. When on the first place, if the student gave me that, or told me that, or told the dean, ganun din naman yung mangyayari. So, it's always being smart. Try to analyze also the right step. Kasi even if you go directly to, for example lang, your head or your boss when you're complaining, when you're supposed to have gone to the HR, it can also backfire. So instead of being, even if you are speaking for the truth, for example, you were insulted or you were discriminated upon at work and you went directly to the vice president, it will not look good for you. Mas maganda kung pumunta ka sa right people who can address that, like the HR department. Ayan. So, for communication networks, these are patterns of relationships through which information flows in an organization. Ito yung SOP, paano nagfo-flow yung communication. Now, here are some communication networks. The first one is your some key terms: formal communication. Of course, messages that flow prescribed channels of communication in the organization. So the most common way is the organizational chart. Ito yung sinasabi ko. So as a teacher or instructor, if I need to share something in the university, ang direct head ko ay yung program chair, ang tawag natin diyan. So, yung head, ang program chair ng tourism I see Ma'am Joanna. Ma'am Joanna Victorio is your program chair, and the program chair for ano ba for communication or broadcasting is Sir Cesar Liwanag. So these are the people who are handling your department. So if you have issues, for example, it's also good that you deal with them or you go directly to them because they are the ones in the communication or in they are the ones in the organizational setup that are directly linked to you. So when you talk about formal communication, merong clear guidelines na responsable sa bawat task. So for example, if it's about grades, eto. If it's about tasks, eto. Parang ganon. So there are also terms that you need to memorize. That's your downward communication, upward communication, and horizontal communication. So when we say downward communication occurs whenever superiors initiate messages to the subordinates. So kaya siya downward galing sa taas pababa. For example, giving instructions, that's a downward communication. When downward communication sa atin, when I give you instructions, when I give you motivational stuff, when I talk to you, when I give you feedback, that's an example of a downward communication. When the VPAA will give a memo that will say no work on Tuesday, that's an example of downward communication. Okay, so as you can see in here, this is a bank for BA students. So there's the bank manager, pababa sa marketing manager, and the marketing manager will give it to the BDO. So in a way, whatever the memo the branch manager did, kahit nasa marketing manager, finance manager, and operations manager lang niya binigay, aabot din yan sa baba because of these people. That's why it's a downward communication process. Upward, on the other hand, is an exchange of there's an exchange of information. You offer ideas, express enthusiasm, provide feedback. Why is this? Because the flow is already pabaliktad. It will be from the subordinates to the superiors. So, for example, if you are giving a suggestion like, "Ma, mas maganda yata kung ito ang gawin natin sa online class," and I am sharing to the dean or I am expressing my suggestion to the dean, that's an example of upward communication. So you are an instructor giving instruction, I'm giving suggestions, not instructions to the dean. Without upward management works in a vacuum. We do not know if our messages have been received properly. So sometimes it's also good if it's really good to open also for the communication from the subordinates up. So you ask them, you put like a box, suggestion box, or if you have comments, this is your hotline. For example, sa University of the Philippines, there is a hotline for sexual harassment. So or for harassments of any kind. So if there's a physical, sexual, emotional harassment that happens, there is a hotline or there is an office that will help you or that will accommodate you. So that's an example when people will handle that or people will deal with that. That's an example of upward communication. Pero hindi lang naman siya negative. It can be positive as I have said a while ago. When you are suggesting, that's an example of upward communication. Horizontal, on the other hand, is on one level only. So this is when you coordinate, solve problems, share information at mag-resolve ng conflict. So as you can see in here, for example, when we instructors are talking to each other, like of course we have our GCs, our own GCs. So your teachers in GE, I do not know all of your teachers in GE, but ang ka ang ka-department ko po, halimbawa si Dr. Landingin, si Dr. Aison, Dr. Kitan, Miss Ranges, Miss those ones, yung mga yun. So what we do is we also share, for example, our ideas or our details about the things that we use. So what is effective for you? I okay naman yung okay yung Google Classroom sa akin, okay yung Google Forms, or ako ang ginagamit ko ay class marker pero nagbabayad ka pero maganda siya. So it's a sharing, and that's an example of horizontal communication. We're able to suggest and we are boosting efficiency. So meron ka palang pwedeng tool na gamitin sa Zoom para gumanda yung parang ganon. So that's what happens. Or Even the deans, when the deans will have their meetings, they will share with each other success stories, the things that are effective. Then that's an example of a horizontal communication process. The informal, of course, is interaction that does not follow the formal structure of the organization. Anything that is not in the structure is informal communication. So pag sinasabing informal communication, asan yun? Formal communication consists of messages the organization recognizes as official, but informal messages do not follow official lines. So the concept of emergent organizational networks represents the informal, naturally occurring patterns of communication relationships in organizations. Clearly, the ability to perceive accurately, use verbal and nonverbal symbols with precision, and listen carefully are skills that benefit the workplace. So, ano ang mga meron tayo? What are the different factors or elements of this good communication process? Immediacy. When people engage in communication behaviors intended to create perceptions of psychological closeness with each other, they are enacting immediacy. Immediacy is both verbal and nonverbal. It includes smiling, reducing physical distance, and using animated gestures and facial expressions or so that we create a we language. Okay? So that we become yung closeness. So may magandang research dito na na-share in their study, Tiven et al. What did they do? Supervisors who are immediate are perceived as more trustworthy, higher in competence and goodwill, and more socially attractive. So when you will become boss in the future, my students, may time sa future, no, pag mga 30s na kayo, 40s, magiging boss na rin kayo, or yung iba sa inyo may sarili na kayong businesses, may mga you're going to be adopting, or you're going to be taking over the business of your parents, right? When that happen, try to have this sense of immediacy. Try to be closer with your people. Try to use your we language, okay? So devote greater attention to helping managers learn to use immediacy because of its positive impact on workplace communication. So um for example, kahit na bago kayo, even if you will not become the boss in the future, when you are starting off, you can use immediacy to be close with people who are already there. So you smile, especially in UB. Just to share to you a little bit, UB has a very nice culture on immediacy. So when we are young or when we are new, I remember when I was new, I entered UB 3 years after graduation from college. So nag-work muna ako sa labas. I had a real world experience before going to teach. And when I started teaching, it was totally different because konting sharing lang. Before I left my job, I was already managing a team. So medyo ano ka doon, parang may subordinates ka. But this time, I'm going to UB. I'm starting up. So I am the youngest. I am the ako yung ano doon, ako yung bago. So what are you going to do? Immediacy. What do we do? What are taught to us? Anong tuturo sa amin sa UB ng mga bagong teachers? Be very amiable with each other. So no conflicts. You greet everybody. You memorize everyone's names, which is very basic, and I think that's very important. You should know all of the names of your bosses. Ultimo, middle, initial, alam namin. Kilala mo ang VPA mo, kilala mo ang president mo, kilala mo ang mga deans, mga ganun ba? And then so that when you see them, you're able to, share with them this empathy, or this intimacy. You smile at them, you greet them, good morning, good afternoon, happy lunch ma'am, or ingat po ma'am, bye po. So these are examples all for immediacy. Supportiveness is you listen with empathy. So it's not just hearing, but listening. And when you listen, make sure that either you engage in a dialogue para makuha mo kung ano yung usapan, or you should also give a certain level of impact or effect. Hindi yung nakinig ka tas, okay, thank you, bye na. Listen to them properly. So when you listen without judging. Okay? So makinig ka lang, and sometimes it's just important to just listen. No need for you to say a lot of things, or for you to judge, or for you to give your opinion. Sometimes when you open your mouth and you say the wrong thing, mas lalong madidepress yung nag-share sa'yo. validate their feelings. So for example, when some of you, I'm very strict in class, and I know you know that, but when someone tells me, sir, today I felt like it was a very difficult day because it's like this. You validate their feelings. So even if you disagree with the student that there is something in the class that's going on about him, medyo may ganon ako nare-receive sa iba't ibang section. They are not comfortable in class or they feel like they are ostracized. You validate their feelings by telling them that what you are feeling is probably correct, of course, because it's your feeling. Ikaw nakakaramdam niyan. But you have to help them build also a relationship with others by telling them what to do next. And that's number three. Provide both informational and relational messages. When you are being supportive, you try to help and heal. Provide a metaphorical shoulder to cry on. So sometimes students are like that. I know you are like that. You just want to share, you just want to talk. And all I do is just react to your messages. Sometimes I'm not very good in advising also, to be honest. I'm more of a listener than an advisor. I can share, I can talk about a lot of things, but when you have specific problems, I just listen to it. So there are times, for example, in school, lalo na nung face-to-face, there are some students who come to our office, especially to mine, and talk about depression or they want to come out. So they realize that they've been they know that they are gay or they are lesbians and they are having a difficulty about it or to talk about it. You find someone who you can talk that with, parang ganon. And of course, be confidential. So hindi yung after mag-example, may isa akong student ng pangalan kunwari ay Maria, and then she comes to me and she is sharing to me her experiences, her journey, and that she is, because I'm her teacher, so she thinks that in gender, I'm her teacher in gender, for example, so she feels like I am the best person to share with. And then, after umalis ni Maria, no, after niya sabihin na she's lesbian, umalis siya. Titingin ako sa katabi kong table, sabi ko, "Uy, ma'am, nakita mo yung estudyanteng umalis na yun? Tomboy yun." That's not good. Be confidential. You don't sometimes students also know that. So mafe-feel nyo rin yan, right? So you know which to trust because of the way that they talk, especially your as your teachers. I know that, don't worry, because I've been a student before also. So when I feel like the teacher values confidentiality and the teacher is very perceptive, this is a teacher I can trust. So if I have some feelings that I cannot resolve or I have some issues, that's the teacher that I go and ask for advice from or help from. And some of you did that with me in some of your issues or problems with what's going on in the online classes, personal or school related. So always find someone that you can trust. So even if it's not your teacher, maybe your friend or maybe a higher year or maybe the dean, whoever you feel is someone who can help you with what you are going through. Interaction management, this is already different. When you talk about interaction management, it's about establishing this ito pala, a smooth pattern of interaction that allows a clear flow between topics and ideas. So you use your pause, your pitch, the things that we learned in the first grading lesson, listening to topics that are being discussed and responding appropriately. All of these ones are related to interaction management. Sometimes I as a personally also, I know that I talk a lot, but I think it's a very good practice that I learned. When someone is talking, tinuro rin ito sa akin, I think by my dad, you let the person finish the sentence before you can talk. And if you just want to show that you are listening, you can just nod your head or you can just say mm-hmm or yes or actually or that's true, mga ganon. But be sincere, be genuine. Hindi yung na-memorize mo na kaya habang nag-share yung kaibigan mo, you just say, totoo yan, or that's correct, but you're actually not listening. This is just a way for interaction management is just a way to show that you are responding appropriately to what is being said. Cross-cultural skills, of course, is initially to aid your transition to the workplace. Like, remember our cross-cultural communication process or topic last time. You should ask more questions to clarify instructions or expectations. If there are things that you don't understand, you can ask as long as it is viable. Now, um, this is something that I'm very sensitive about. and I know that you know this. Why am I very strict with instructions and why am I very strict with questions? Sometimes many of you are philosopher or maybe because you are young, so you just say, ang hirap naman magtanong sa teacher na to or ano ba to, na bawal pala magtanong sa teacher na to, parang gano'n. No. Hindi bawal, hindi sinasabing hindi, but sometimes we want you to discover things first before you ask because that's very important. You should know first to delve before you ask. Hindi yung dahil madali lang kasi ang magtanong eh. Asking a question is very easy, especially in online. You just type your question in Messenger or you just type your question in an email and then you get the response that you want after nilang mabasa. But imagine the stress that you are raising kung binasa mo lang sana yung nasa Google Classroom or maybe nagtanong ka lang sa kaklase mo. Maybe could have just asked your classmate, what did the teacher say? Or ano, clarify ko nga, alam mo yung pinaka-okay na magtanong ng instruction. This is how I ask instructions because I also do that. So the first thing that I do, just to share, is if I do not understand something, I go over everything that is sent to me. So, check ko muna lahat ng sinend ni teacher. Saan ba kami nag-uusap I'm also in grad school right now, so there are times when I don't read everything because we only meet once a week. So, saan ba kami nag-uusap? We always talk on Messenger. So, I go back to Messenger. Wala siyang sinabi. And then we use email. So, I go back to email. Wala siyang sinabi. Wait, we are using Dropbox. So, I go to Dropbox. Nandun. So, I don't need to ask her anymore. But I check it's not there. Ito, for example lang, wala doon. So, wala talaga. Pero kailangan ko nang magtanong kasi hindi ko may hanap yung sinasabi niya. I asked my classmates. And when my classmates respond to me that they know, at least alam ko na rin yung sagot. But if they don't say anything like walang nagre-reply or hindi rin daw nila alam, what do I do? I write what I understand and the teacher will either approve or disapprove, agree or disagree. So I will say, ma'am, this is our project na binigay mo and then you told us to do this. Example, sabi mo ma'am 1,300 words. Hindi ko po kasi naintindihan. Is that the minimum or the maximum? So at least you show to your teacher that you listened or to your boss, to your manager, to your leader that you listened even before you ask the question. So ayun, it's very important that you establish these things first. Conflict management skills, I know that your teachers are teaching this in the major subjects. What to do if there are conflicts that occur in the workplace. So conflicts are very negative sometimes because of course our resources and our time are precious in the business and then pag may nag-aaway hindi tayo nagiging productive. So it's very important that we manage our conflict and here are some suggestions. Number one is avoidance. Avoidance style, you deny the existence of conflict. Although avoidance can provide you with time to think through a situation, continued avoidance allows conflict to simmer and flare up with more intensity. So, when you keep avoiding something, mas lalong lumalala yan. So, it's better to address it. Competition. With the competition style, you view conflict as a battle and advance your own interest over others. Okay? Compromise. With a compromising style, you are willing to negotiate away some of your position as long as the other party in the conflict is willing to do the same. Mas maganda yung compromise. But it depends on you. There are some, although sinasabi dito, hindi naman mali kung, example, you are the avoidance type, competition type. Accommodation style or type, you set aside your views and accept those of others. So, kung anong gusto niyang sabihin, I will accept that. Mas importante yung work relationship namin kesa yung opinions namin. Parang ganon. And finally, there is collaboration. So collaboration style involves thoughtful negotiation and reasoned compromise, whereby both parties agree that the negotiated outcome is the best possible alternative. I work as a researcher mainly, aside from teaching. So when I work in research, I think collaboration and compromise is very important. So those are what works with me. Depende sa work nyo yan. So ako sa compromise because when we do research, there are times when I want to do this method and my workmate wants to do this method. So eto na lang gagawin natin. This is what we do. Let's compromise. So eto yung part mo, eto yung part ko, or magpapabigay ako ngayon. So, okay, let's do what you want to do. But for the next research, I get to pick. I get to pick what we do next, parang ganon. And collaboration, because it's ano kasi it's a strategy. Collaboration is a strategy. Like what you are doing now in your group works, this is a very good example of collaboration. There are 6 members among you and there are a lot of outputs. You don't want to be stressed. So what do? Okay guys, kayong dalawa ito sa inyo, kayong dalawa ito sa inyo, sa aming dalawa ito. So nahati yung tatlong task, mabilisan na yan. And then deadline na niyo ang sarili niyo. Example, the deadline with Sir Ian is December 10. You tell each other, December 9 tapos na natin para mag-checkan tayo. By December 9, you check each other's output. Okay na to, ipas na natin yan. Ito medyo kulang pa, improve pa natin. Meron pa kayong isang araw na extension. So that's a very good example of collaboration. Lesson 2, we will be having meetings and minutes of meeting in the next video.